Thank you, darling Kathy. Just what an honor and a great privilege and gift to be part of this community. Just had such a beautifully deep, rich, heart-opening retreat, and yeah, just feels so wonderful to be with you in heart and spirit and physically. So I wonder how many of you are familiar with Ramana Maharshi? And are there people who haven't heard of him before? Some of you, yeah. Well, I hadn't either many years ago. And I thought that maybe the best way to introduce him to you is to share some of my own journey with him. And actually, if I were to just stand up here and be in silence for the whole time, that would probably best exemplify his teaching. His path was one of silence, of looking inside ourselves. He urged inward investigation, in looking inside to find the God self within, which he said we already are. We've just forgotten. He called it the self, capital S, self. So many, many years ago, I was back in Ireland teaching, and I was walking back to my room on campus, and a passing truck was speeding, and it had a load of lumber in the back, swung off the truck and cracked me in the skull. And I went tumbling through the air and landed face down on the concrete. And the moment of impact, my body just was jettisoned out. My spirit was jettisoned out of that body. And I was floating above, watching this whole scene. But I myself, bodiless, formless, was in this vast spaciousness of a love that's kind of beyond description. If you think of the person you love most in this world, and you multiply it by 10 billion, it doesn't touch that love. And it was like I was, had this bird's eye view of the world, and I was shown how every single aspect of this life arises out of that love. Even the most horrific acts, the things that we judge and hate, it's all coming out of this foundation of love. It's the very fabric of existence. And so, as you can imagine, I was, to use an Irish expression, happy as Larry up there, ecstatic. I did not want to come back, but it was really made clear that my work wasn't finished. And so I was catapulted back into the body, a very broken body. So when I was well enough, I returned to America, and I met the man who would become my spiritual teacher for about 2 decades. And we were on a retreat in Mexico, I remember, and I was lying on the floor because I was too injured to stand or sit for long. So I was on the floor just looking at the altar, and there was a picture of a man with a beard. I had no idea who he was. But all of a sudden, he just airlifted into my heart, kind of like Cupid's arrow, just zing right into my heart. And I was just smitten. I was just madly in love. And it was as if I was waking up from a dream to the true beauty of life. However, that was just my honeymoon. And the real inner work unfolded afterwards. And Ramana became my guide, my confidant, my companion, my beloved through it all. So I'd like to share a poem with you that I wrote in gratitude to him. And it's called All. All I wanted was a hand to hold through the forest, through the dark woods. But Ramana offered his heart, all rubies and jewels and spaciousness, all humans and time and wounded creatures illumined in his love, until he fine-tuned my fingers, fused them into his, into one palm uplifted, a liquid charm, dripping back to its sparkling origin. So this love affair set me off on a hunt to read everything I could find about this surprising guest who'd taken up residence in my heart. And actually his name means he who lives in the heart of all beings. So he's a well-traveled guy. And Ramana didn't espouse any particular doctrine, but the closest would be the path of non-duality. And this means that we're not separate, lonely, struggling islands unto ourselves, but that we are all interconnected. You know, we're all part of that same vast sea of exquisite love that I experienced during that near-death experience. So, a little background on Ramana. When he was born in 1879 in a small town in India, he had a nurse, a blind nurse, who saw this great light at the moment he entered the world. And he had a normal childhood till he was about 16. He wasn't much for schoolwork, but he was popular and playful, and his nickname was Golden Hands, because everything he touched turned to gold. And perhaps a hint of what was to come was that when he would go to sleep, he would be in a state so deep that nothing could rouse him. His friends would use him as a football and toss him across the room back and forth, and he wouldn't wake. So he had a radical transformation, I guess what we would call self-realization, awakening, when he was just 16. He was lying on his bed and he was overcome with this fear that he was going to die. Like he just felt he was going to die. And instead of resisting it and distracting, he thought, I'll go with it. So he just lay there and he let the body become lifeless, as if he were in fact dead. And he realized that though the body was gone, the full force of his personality was still intact. That is, he was fully conscious. So he asked himself, if the body dies, who am I? Am I the body? No, because the body is inert and lifeless, and I'm still here, aware and conscious. So I must be something beyond the body. And it was a visceral, direct experience. And he realized that he was not the body or even the mind, but something deeper, unchanging, eternal. And so after this, he lost interest in worldly things. And he remembered that an elderly relative had come to visit, and when he'd asked him where he'd been, the relative said, I've been to this sacred mountain called Arunachala in southern India. And something in the word, in the energy, the vibration of the word Arunachala, it set off this fire, these fireworks inside Ramana, and he determined to go there. So he left a note for his family saying, I've gone in search of my father, and took a long circuitous route and got to the mountain. And he just went into a state of meditation. And he was in a state of bliss so profound that he remained unmoving for years. Even when boys would come and throw stones at him and taunt him, he wouldn't flinch. That state that he was in is called samadhi, and it means profound absorption in the self. And so eventually some kind people carried him, he was unresponsive, carried him to an underground cave where vermin ate away at his flesh, and still he remained. And it became apparent that he was no ordinary sadhu. And people began to tend to him. Women would come and they'd pry open his mouth and place food in there. And his mother, of course, was heartbroken that her son had left. So she sent her brother to bring him home. But Ramana wouldn't budge. So she herself came and she begged and prayed and wept. And still he stayed in meditation and samadhi. But he did gesture for a piece of paper. And he wrote these words that have now become quite famous, that have helped me and many others in times of challenge. And this is what he wrote. Whatever is destined not to happen, whatever is destined not to happen will not happen, try as you may. Whatever is destined to happen will happen, do what you may to prevent it. This is certain. The best course, therefore, is to remain silent. So eventually his mother gave up and joined him at the mountain, and she helped to feed all the devotees that were gathering around him. And actually, many years later, as she was dying, Ramana placed his right hand on her heart and his left hand on her head, just as she was leaving, so it would subdue the last thoughts, the last worldly thoughts, and she attained enlightenment. So for many years, Ramana remained in samadhi, being moved or carried to different caves on the mountain, still not speaking, until finally a very sincere seeker came, and he really implored Ramana to tell him what the path was to freedom. He had tried everything and nothing had worked. So out of compassion, Ramana did speak, and he recommended what is now called the path of self-inquiry. He suggested connecting with the heart and asking, who am I? Who am I really beyond this silhouette of form, this bag of bones? And not expecting an answer, but keep digging deeper. Who is it who is having these thoughts? Who is it who's feeling this way? And with each new thought, just keep asking, to whom does it come? And eventually, he said, it will lead you back, all the way back to the source of where the mind comes. And so, really, it's a way of subduing using the mind to subdue the mind. So, he also said there was another path that would also lead you home, and this is the path of devotion. And by devotion, he meant just surrendering to the higher power, trusting that that power, the greater love, God, whatever you want to call it, to take care of you, to live from the heart. He suggested using a mantra to keep you focused, like Kathy offered us on the retreat. But either way, he said, will lead you to the same destination. So, as I said earlier, I read everything I could about my beloved, and one line that really moved me that he said inspired a poem. And this line is, when you meet someone, think deeply. It is God who dwells in that body. So, when you meet someone, think deeply. It is God who dwells in that body. Think deeply how he breathes you, how he beats your heart. He moves and sleeps you. He is eating you with the fuel of his love. And when you see another, it is him beaming at you. Even if the smile seems like a grimace, smile back, for God wears many masks. And if you see a woman crying, weep with her, or stroke away her tears, for she's a broken part of you, seeking wholeness. The soldier that you judge, the sulky child you resist, the father who ignored you, are all his. They are lost parts of yourself, wanting to come home when you truly open to them. Think deeply. These differences are appearance. They arise out of love. They burn with that same flame of light that can never be extinguished. Make peace with yourself. Make love of what still wounds you. Let pain be your ally, anger your friend, for he too dwells in you as in your apparent enemy, and will see you through always to the end. So, back to Ramana. When people learned of this young sage meditating and offering wisdom on the mountain, they came to him in droves, and he eventually agreed to move down from the mountain as they were building an ashram around him because so many people were coming, even though he would have preferred to stay meditating in the caves. He said there wasn't 1 inch of that mountain that he hadn't set foot on. And he was the poster child for egalitarianism. You know, he refused any special treatment. If he was given even a mouthful of food on his banana leaf before anybody else, extra food, he wouldn't eat it. and he wouldn't eat till everybody had been served. There was no hierarchy in his world. And he had a special connection with animals. Animals saw him as themselves. So monkeys would come to him to mediate their fights. And once a cobra came into the meditation hall, and everybody was freaked out, and Ramana just spoke calmly to the cobra and said, you better leave. Probably it isn't good. People are scared of you. And the cobra just sidled out happily. And then there was a very, very special animal called Lakshmi, a cow that Ramana really loved. And he said that it isn't just humans that can attain enlightenment, that animals can too. And so this cow would come to him with tears streaming down into the meditation hall, and they would just bow their heads together for hours. And he said, look, Lakshmi is in samadhi. And so she gave birth to many calves, and 4 of them were born on Ramana's birthday. And so one day a devotee said to Ramana, wow, how auspicious that a calf was born on your birthday. And Ramana said, correct yourself. It's auspicious that my birthday celebrations are happening on the day that Lakshmi gave birth to a calf. So I believe it was Ramana who said, God is the most humble of all. So let me see. How are we doing for time, sweetie? We're good?
Yeah, we've got 10 minutes.
Okay.
Well, until the service is supposed to end.
Okay.
It's okay, we can go on.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah. So of the 2 paths, self-inquiry or devotion, you can probably guess what mine was. It was devotion. And the funny thing is that it often starts as devotion to another, to Ramana, but it eventually becomes devotion to life itself and ultimately to the self, to the expression of consciousness that I am, that we all are. So there's a poem I'd like to share, and I'll just give you a little background. So I often think of Ramana and then the holy mountain Arunachala and Shiva as the kind of Indian holy trinity. And sometimes they're interchangeable. It's said that the mountain Arunachala is actually a physical manifestation of Shiva, and that Ramana's face would take on the visage of Shiva, sometimes the fiercer aspect of the divine. So I was on retreat once. It was on a leap year, and we happened to be on retreat on a leap day. And that day in Ireland is the day when a woman is allowed to propose to whoever she fancies. So I thought I would raise my chances and propose to all 3 of them. So this is the poem. Because it is leap year, I ask Holy Mountain to marry me. Will you take me as your lawful bride? You're already taken, she replies, offering a bouquet of jasmine. I marry you now to your own flowering. I ask Shiva if I can be his bride, and he comes down from his perch with a garland of beads, saying, wear these and see whose bride you have always been. I now wed you to truth. And my darling Ramana, I don't have to ask. We are lovers forever entwined, twin grapes on a luscious vine, now growing inside my heart, and flowing into him, the one spouse to whom all vows are offered. And he tucks the moon in my mouth and the sun in my heart, and my pocket sprouts with 1,000 stars, and the wind is a ring on my finger that whispers, you are a feather floating out on the wing of Brahman. Float out on the dream as long as you need. Float out on the dream as long as you need. But always remember, I wed you to love. So, though he never spoke of it, Ramana received all comers with an open heart. He didn't believe in special powers, but many attested to miracles that had happened in their lives. And one funny story was a man came to him and said, "If you're so special, Ramana, why don't you just take my ego here and now and be done with it?" To which Ramana, of course, replied, "Okay, give it to me." We don't give it up so easily. But more seriously, people's wounds and pains were absorbed into Ramana's body over time, and he eventually developed cancer in his arm. And he would say, "The body has pain, but I am not the body." He was completely disidentified from the form. So he always made himself available right up until the very end. People filed in a long line for miles for his final darshan or viewing. And compassionate as ever, Ramana's last words were, "Have the peacocks been fed?" At his passing, a huge bright star streeled slowly across the night sky, and it was seen across many parts of India. I've been blessed to go to Arunachala quite a few times, and one of the greatest privileges of my life was to read my poems at his samadhi where he is buried. I've always felt that he gave me the poems, and that I got to return them back to their source was better than winning the lottery. So Ramana was clear that we are already divine, that the God light is already present within each of us. We just have to peel away the notions that we aren't. And that's our life's journey for most of us. We're leaving ourselves of the ideas and the identities that we've accumulated until all that's left is love, till we return to our original face, the true face of love. So I don't think I've time for my last poem. Well, if you have to use the bathroom or leave, go ahead. I'll just wrap up with this poem, and it's called "For You," and it really is for you. Whoever you are perfect, even if you're pushing into the wind, even if hailstones lash at your face, if you're buried deep in quicksand, still consider it grace. Those voices inside that speak otherwise, ignore them. Let yourself rest. There's a stream of crystal water floating you forward, even if you can't see it. There's a wisdom that conjured the way, and it will guide you wherever you are destined to go or to stay. Trust it. Have faith. Let love cast a glow when it's dark. You've already traveled so far, going nowhere. Listen to your heart. Can't you hear it whisper the song only you know, the tune that is your familiar, the song that sings your name? Heed the hints along the path, the secret answers you've always craved. Be who you are, but be gentle, be kind to the struggling, worn-out mind. Let me share my own secret with you. If you believe nothing else, believe this. You are already perfect, exquisitely whole. Nothing is lacking. God only knows you have tried to jam up the holes you imagined you carried inside. Let fresh air billow through them like stars igniting the sky. You belong right here, right now, just as you are. Whoever you are perfect. Spread your wings, precious beauty, and fly. So one more thing I want to say is, going from India back to Ireland, I want to leave you with an Irish blessing. It's become my mantra. It's in the Irish language. Gra Geal Mochrihu. Gra Geal Mochrihu. My heart is brightened by my love for you.